At 67, Sharon Stone finally broke her silence and broke down in tears. The woman once crowned Hollywood's ultimate sex symbol is now revealing the painful truth behind the industry that made her, and then mercilessly cast her aside. For years, she stayed quiet about the stroke that nearly killed her, the fame that disappeared overnight, and the loneliness that followed. Now, for the first time, she's speaking from the heart, and what she reveals will forever change the way the world sees Sharon Stone. There was a time when Sharon Stone was Hollywood. In the early 1990s, her name alone could light up marquees and command millions at the box office. After Basic Instinct hit theaters in 1992, she wasn't just famous, she became a cultural phenomenon. That icy stare, the confidence, the danger, Sharon embodied a new kind of power that terrified studios and fascinated audiences. She had fought her way up from a working-class girl in Meadville, Pennsylvania, to a woman who ruled the most ruthless industry in the world. Paparazzi flashes followed her like shadows. The tabloids called her too smart, too sexy, too dangerous. But behind every dazzling red carpet smile, there was a quiet fear that fame built on beauty could vanish the moment she stopped being the fantasy Hollywood wanted her to be. And as time went on, that fear became her reality. It all began in 2001, the year Sharon Stone's world came crashing down. At the height of her fame, with million-dollar film offers and red carpet appearances, she suddenly collapsed on the floor of her home. It wasn't exhaustion, it wasn't stress. It was a massive brain hemorrhage that lasted 9 long days, a medical nightmare that left her with only a 1% chance of survival. Doctors told her family to prepare for the worst. When she finally woke up, Sharon couldn't walk properly, couldn't read scripts, couldn't even remember her own name at times. "I lost everything," she later admitted. "My career, my money, my place in the industry, all gone in an instant." But what shocked her most wasn't the physical pain. It was Hollywood's silence. The same people who once begged to work with her suddenly stopped calling. The phone never rang. Studio executives moved on, labeling her too risky, too old, too complicated. The woman who had once defined power and seduction became invisible. Sharon had spent years proving she was more than just a beautiful face. She had earned an Oscar nomination, produced films, and fought for fair pay. But after her stroke, all of that vanished. She wasn't seen as the strong, resilient actress who survived. She was seen as damaged goods. Tabloids began speculating about her meltdowns, twisting her vulnerability into mockery. Publicists who once protected her image now distanced themselves. She recalled walking into events where people she'd known for decades would avoid eye contact, as if her illness was contagious. Then came another devastating blow. She lost custody of her adopted son, Roan. The judge reportedly ruled that her health condition made her an unstable parent. In interviews years later, Sharon revealed that moment broke her completely. "I walked out of the courtroom, went home, and just lay on the floor for days. I couldn't believe that surviving had become my punishment." It was the cruelest irony. The woman who had been celebrated for her strength on screen was being punished for showing it in real life. By the mid-2000s, Sharon had gone from Oscar-nominated star to Hollywood exile. Offers disappeared. Magazines stopped calling. Even friends seemed to fade into the background. "I was forgotten," she said quietly in one interview, "not because I failed, but because I lived." Yet behind that pain, a quiet rage was building. She had survived death once, and she wasn't about to let Hollywood bury her alive. For years, Sharon stayed silent. She smiled through interviews, walked red carpets again, pretended the whispers didn't cut as deep as they did. But time changes everything, and so does truth. In a 2021 interview, she finally spoke without filters. Her voice trembled, but her words carried the weight of 2 decades of pain. "I was treated worse than anyone could imagine," she confessed. "People thought I was faking my illness, that I was crazy, but I was just trying to stay alive." What no one knew was how brutal her recovery really was. She had to learn to speak again, to read again, to remember lines, to rebuild the person she once was. Hollywood didn't help, but strangers did. Friends outside the industry brought her food, paid her bills, and reminded her that she was still Sharon Stone, even when the cameras forgot. Then came the moment that changed everything. Sharon realized that if Hollywood wouldn't take her back, she would tell her own story. In her memoir, The Beauty of Living Twice, she exposed the truth about the business that betrayed her, from pay discrimination to the infamous Basic Instinct scene that she said was filmed without her full consent. They told me it would be just a shadow, she revealed. But when I saw the final cut, I was in shock. The revelation sparked outrage and sympathy across the world. For the first time, people saw Sharon not as a sex symbol, but as a survivor, a woman who endured exploitation, illness, and heartbreak, yet never lost her dignity. And just when everyone thought her story was over, she stunned them again. She began using her platform to advocate for stroke victims, women's rights, and survivors of abuse in the entertainment industry. Her comeback wasn't built on fame, it was built on truth. But perhaps the most powerful moment came when she said, with quiet defiance, "I lost everything, but I found myself." Those 6 words became her rebirth, a declaration that beauty fades, but strength doesn't. Sharon Stone was no longer the woman Hollywood made her to be. She had become something they couldn't control anymore. Real. When Sharon's revelations came out, Hollywood didn't know how to react. Some applauded her courage, others rolled their eyes, whispering that she was chasing attention. But one thing was undeniable. Sharon Stone had forced the industry to look in the mirror. Public opinion was divided. Younger audiences, who had grown up hearing only about her legs crossing scene, were shocked to learn what she had endured. Older generations felt guilt, a collective realization that they had watched her suffer in silence while the tabloids feasted on her downfall. The entertainment world slowly began to shift. Female directors and actresses publicly thanked Sharon for speaking up. She was one of the first to tell the truth about how Hollywood treats women after 40, one actress wrote. She didn't just survive, she fought for all of us. In the years that followed, Sharon transformed her pain into purpose. She became an advocate for women's rights, LGBTQ+ causes, and medical research for brain injury survivors. Instead of starring in blockbusters, she starred in life, using her fame not as armor, but as a weapon for change. Still, the wounds ran deep. In interviews, Sharon often described how loneliness still haunted her. She had rebuilt her career, but the cost had been immense. "You learn who your friends are when you have nothing to offer," she said with a faint smile that couldn't hide the ache behind it. Her words hit home for countless people who had felt forgotten by a system that once celebrated them. And slowly, the narrative began to change. Sharon Stone was no longer the woman who lost it all. She became the woman who owned her loss and turned it into strength. Today, when she walks onto a red carpet, there's no longer the same frenzy, no flashing chaos of the past, but there is something far greater: respect. The same industry that once shunned her now calls her a symbol of resilience. She's been honored by humanitarian foundations, featured in major campaigns, and celebrated not for her beauty, but for her survival. And yet, Sharon doesn't pretend that time healed everything. "I'm not who I used to be," she said softly. "But maybe that's okay. Maybe that's the point." Her honesty, raw, unfiltered, and unapologetic, has become her legacy. She taught Hollywood and the world that even when the spotlight fades, authenticity still shines brighter than fame. After everything, Sharon Stone stands today not as a fallen star, but as a survivor who refused to disappear. She lost the roles, the fame, the adoration that once defined her, yet somehow emerged stronger, stripped of illusion, but full of truth. The woman who once stopped the world with a single movie scene now moves it with her words. She's not chasing Hollywood anymore, she's redefining it. Every wrinkle, every scar, every quiet moment of resilience has become part of her power. And in a world that worships youth and perfection, Sharon Stone dares to exist as she truly is, flawed, fearless, and free. As she once said, "I've been famous, I've been broke, I've been sick, I've been well. But through it all, I stayed me." After all the glamour fades and the cameras turn away, one question still lingers. Was Sharon Stone truly rejected by Hollywood, or did she finally walk away from a world that never deserved her in the first place? And perhaps that's the real story. The moment a woman stops trying to be seen and simply becomes unforgettable. And you, what do you think? Did Hollywood betray Sharon Stone, or did she win by choosing herself? Share your thoughts below, because every story has more than one truth.